Hi, Dr. Jasmine Craner and Dr. Gabrielle Munoz here from Active Edge Chiropractic and Functional Medicine. We're here today because we want to share with you how different the results can look when we look at blood work from a traditional perspective compared to a functional perspective. So I like to make it a practice to practice what I preach. And so I don't ever ask patients to do something that I haven't done myself, and that I don't ask patients to do things that aren't like the same way I would treat myself, right? So I have not been feeling at my peak. Nothing's really wrong, just not quite right. I just have a sense that something's a little off. So I went and got my blood work done, ordered the panel, the really comprehensive deep dive panel that we do in the office. And it came back showing that nothing was wrong except that my LDLs are a little higher than what the traditional perspective would like. So then Dr. Gabrielle took my numbers and ran them against the functional numbers, and she goes, actually, you have a lot of things happening. So she's going to explain a little bit to you about the difference between the two and what she found and what she's going to have me do so that my body can heal itself.
So, as she said before, looking at these in the pathological, traditional Western medicine approach, all of her lab values looked great. Nothing was wrong. But as she said, she's still not feeling great, not having as much energy as she normally would. So when we look at her blood work through the functional range, we see that she does actually have some things going on that we can work on. So according to her blood work, her TSH and like some of her thyroid markers were actually normal, but according to our values, she did have a little bit of high TSH values and some subclinical hypothyroidism. There are many different causes for these kinds of things. Anything from plastics that we are eating from or from our beauty products. These plastics actually like wreak havoc on our body and can actually, to our body, they mimic estrogen. So that can be a really big problem. Having different toxicities in our body, even things like leaky gut and inflammation can cause different symptoms of hypothyroidism, stress, and sugar imbalances. So for Dr. Craner, we have a couple things going on here with those thyroid markers that were off. She did have some white blood cell markers that were higher than we'd like to see, indicative of inflammation and infection. So that is a really good, those go really hand in hand, thyroid and having some type of infection. So based on those things, we are going to really go after the thyroid and this infection. We're gonna help her body be able to overcome these challenges that it's facing, give her body some really good energy that she needs. Dr. Jasmine is really known for having really high energy, and she said she's not really feeling too much like herself, feeling a little bit less energy, some fatigue. Now, some of her blood work is showing us here that her iron actually is pretty low. According to the traditional way that we look at blood work, her iron was perfectly fine. But when we put it through the functional range here, we see that it's actually pretty low. And that could be caused from not intaking enough in your diet or even having issues digesting that iron, even if you are intaking it. So a few things that we are going to recommend in order to help her body. There are a couple different markers that we can look at to confirm our suspicion of her having a malabsorption issue, which is intaking the amount that her body needs, but not being able to absorb it in her gut. So that would be things like having low triglyceride, having the low iron, low phosphorus. All of those can contribute to not being able to absorb the good nutrients that she is intaking in her body.
So according to normal blood work, triglycerides anywhere under 150 milligrams,
which is a huge range,
is fine. But from a functional perspective, where am I supposed to be?
Between 75 and 100 is optimal. So as you can see, that's a huge discrepancy of what is healthy.
And I'm at 41.
Right. And even having low phosphorus can be indicative of having low stomach acid and not being able to digest that food properly.
Okay.
So these are all a couple different clues that lead us to that path, saying that she is having some sort of decrease in stomach acid and having issues absorbing all of the nutrients that her body needs. Many things can cause malabsorption. Even something as simple as stress can change the acidity in our stomach. So diet is really important if we're eating high inflammatory foods or processed foods, which she doesn't really. So that's why it kind of lends me to believe that we need to work on the level of stress or how we deal with that stress. But this is definitely something that we can help with.
Okay. So then you also mentioned in here some indication of like a low-grade infection. Is that something that also would cause malabsorption, or is that kind of a separate thing?
Actually, it's very common for patients to come in experiencing symptoms of some sort of GI infection. Again, that can be brought on from stress, from standard American diet, from eating processed foods, from inflammatory foods, from antibiotic usage, all kinds of things. Having an infection can lead to you not being able to digest as much as you can, just because it can alter that stomach acid.
And so my blood work from that Western traditional perspective didn't show that I have any sort of infection.
Correct.
So what are you looking at to see that I do have an infection, and like how are you knowing about that?
So in order to look to see if there is any type of infection, we look at white blood cells and then something called differential, which tells us the 5 different types of white blood cells that we have. Each blood cell can tell us if you're having an infection from bacteria, if it's more of a viral infection, if it's more from allergies. So that is what we tend to look at to really see what is causing the infection. But we also ran a urinalysis with Dr. Craner, which told us a little bit more information about her infections. So one of the other things that we're looking at here is the differential of your white blood cells. So these are actually telling us that you have some sort of infection and what kind of infection it actually is. So if it's parasitic, if it's bacterial, if it's more so from toxicity.
So is that's contributing to my malabsorption?
Correct.
Okay.
Infections can definitely impact your ability to absorb the nutrients that you're intaking, because it can actually alter your digestive enzymes that you need.
Okay. My infection clearly isn't intense enough for it to show up over here. Like I'm
Exactly.
not dying.
Exactly.
But you can still have an infection that is not like really, I don't know, putting you under the rug.
Correct.
Okay. And so if we fix how I can absorb, that helps fix that infection?
Yes, if we can fix how you're absorbing your nutrients, getting a lot of those good phytonutrients into your body, that will help to really amp up your immune system so that your body is able to deal with this infection that is present.
Cool. And so then doing all that gives my body the capability to balance everything else out, and then my hypothyroid issue kind of resolves itself?
Yes, because when you're bringing down the infection, you have proper stomach acid, digestive enzymes, you're able to absorb your food properly, and then that also is bringing down your level of inflammation systemically. So it all just full circle, everything's all connected.
Cool. So what am I doing?
So a couple things that we're gonna do. I know that you eat really well, you cook everything at home, you eat lots of veggies.
I do eat lots of veggies, but I don't necessarily.
Well, that's okay. So a couple things that we want to help you with is to help your body be able to respond to stress in a different way.
Okay.
So I know you took a Stress Essentials quiz and you are on some of those really good herbs that will help your body be able to adapt to those situations and really manage your stress levels. A couple other things that we're going to add in just temporarily would be a digestive enzyme.
Okay.
Until that infection subsides a little bit, then you'll be able to build up that stomach acid on your own. So in the interim, we're just going to supplement you with some of that. We're also going to do 2 shakes a day, which would be the Inflammacore. That has a lot of really good anti-inflammatory things in there, like turmeric, to really help bring down that systemic inflammation that she's experiencing from the infection. We're also adding in an iron supplement temporarily, just because your values are pretty low. But again, once you're able to be cured of that infection and have that stomach acid be working properly, then you won't necessarily need those things anymore, because you'll be able to digest and absorb all of those nutrients that you're taking in. So that's what we're gonna be working on with you.
Cool. So in summary, we are obviously making sure my diet is ship-shape.
Yes.
And with that, doing some things to support my liver, which we saw in the urinalysis. My liver's a little taxed. We know that stress is a problem for a lot of people, so we're going to do some things to support my adrenal system.
Yes.
So that it can be keeping up with all of the work that we're doing and helping with it.
Yes. Yes, because it's not just the stress that we're experiencing from like the world. Stress can also affect our bodies in like chemical ways. If we're having processes like this in our body going on, then we definitely want to help that burden. And then also just like physical stressors that we're putting our body through all the time. So
cool.
Managing those.
So some of what we're doing is to make some immediate changes and support various organ systems. And some of it is to help fix my ability to digest and then resolve, kind of work along, right?
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So we get immediate change and long-lasting change?
Yes, that's what we ideally would like this to be. Good lifestyle change, not just a quick fix.
But this is going to allow me to have my energy back.
Yeah.
Very good.
That's what we want to see.
Thank you, Dr. Gabrielle.
Thank you.